Welcome to the Sisters Like Us podcast. I'm Lakin.
And I'm Allie, and we're here to share our perspectives as sisters from two different generations.
So grab a glass of wine
or a bottle,
and let's dive in.
Hello, welcome back.
Hello, friends.
We are joined today by a very special guest, which if you're not watching the YouTube version, if you are just listening, it is our mom. You have to actually say it's a podcast. So while yes, we are recording it on video, you need to actually talk for people to hear you.
What am I supposed to say?
I don't know. Hello.
Hello.
So if you didn't go back and if you haven't listened to episode 1, where we kind of talk about like our history, we have the same mom and different dads. So this is our common link, is our mom.
But for the first time, we actually have wine.
Yes, first episode that we have recorded at a time that is wine o'clock. Wine appropriate. Again, not for me. I could have gotten, I guess, like a non-alcoholic wine, but
yeah.
They need to make those in smaller bottles because like I bought the one in like the full bottle. I don't need a full bottle of that, and I don't need it every day, and it's like went bad before I could finish it. They need to make those non-alcoholic wines in smaller containers. Yeah. This is also a little bit of a sneak peek because just in a couple of days, I am going to have Mom on my YouTube channel, which I will leave linked. It's probably always linked, but where we answered lots of questions and we asked the community for their questions. Well, there was one question that came in after we had already recorded, and I thought it would be just a fun jumping off point for conversation that might go in, who knows, whatever directions it will go in. And it also worked out because it was a question that was also appropriate for her relationship with Allie too, and not just me. Because the video with me and Mom was a lot about like me as a baby, and also like I'm having a baby and then raising babies. And this question definitely relates to Allie as well. So the question that came in was talking about being friends with your children and how you develop those friendships with your kids and then maintain those friendships with them as adults. Because now that all of your kids, literally all of them, are above 18, but especially your biological 3 are all out of college and adults, and you are friends with all 3 of your children. I don't know how far back you want to go to talk about that or what your thoughts are, wherever you want to start.
Well, what I usually tell people is that it's not going to be a light switch. They don't turn 18 and you become friends. You don't keep acting like a mom and then just turn into friendship. So it's more like an airplane. You got to have a runway. You start building that over time, and then you can, as they start taking off and becoming adults, it's a lot easier to have that lift of being able to be friends with them, I think. And then you start thinking of them like the same thing you would say to a girlfriend. You would say to, or a guy friend with Parker. And so you start, and listening more to them. I mean, they have great ideas. They know things I don't know. And appreciating that as opposed to always being like, I know more than you do. I think that has a lot to do. And we have common interests, so that helps.
That definitely helps. And I'm sure that's not always the case with every parent-child relationship. Yeah. I feel like not every parent-child relationship has that where you have like the common interests that help you maintain those friendships.
But I've observed other friends where they're my age and they still have a relationship with their parents that's very parent-child. And
wait, they're the child? Or you mean with their kids?
No, I'm saying, people my age with their parents.
Oh.
They still haven't gotten there yet. Now, it could be more of a generational thing.
That's what the podcast is all about.
where,
share.
where I think that the generation, my parents' generation, they never got to that.
Yep.
And we're very critical. Oh, I'm the parent. I'm always right.
Yep.
The child's always wrong. You do what I say, not what I do, or you,
I know best.
Right. Or you just, I don't have to give you a reason for anything, Now, I think sometimes parents go a little too far too early. I think there's that perfect balance because if you too soon, don't let the kids kind of walk all over you, if you will, and because you're trying so hard to please them.
Yeah.
And instead of, sometimes they need it, But but when I also disciplined you guys, I approached it not from more of an authoritarian perspective, but more from like, I think you need, to step back and reevaluate what you're doing.
That's true. I don't know what you're talking about. None of us had to be disciplined. We're all perfect.
Some more than others, maybe. Need a little bit more.
That's crazy.
You knew that.
Yeah, you needed a little more than the other two, because
Okay.
Parker just never
Parker
got
just
caught
never
in
got
anything.
caught.
I don't know
Yeah.
what he may have done.
I'm a very bad liar.
I am too,
Yeah.
but you did more than I did, but Parker just never got caught.
Yeah, so he may have done more.
Yeah.
Allie always got caught.
Yes, always.
You got caught too.
I got caught too.
Yeah, and so you guys didn't do very much, but it became more of a, a discussion as to, what went wrong, as opposed to just you're going to be grounded for 2 weeks. Well, I saw so many parents where they tell their kids they're grounded for X period of time, and then the kid is just angry the whole time and ignores them and doesn't ever communicate because, they are just mad, as opposed to when I did by accident saying, I don't know how long you're going to be grounded. And it was, you show me you have learned.
You did do that.
That's one of her best teenage tips, is grounding with no timeline.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I forgot about that.
Yeah.
She did it to me accidentally, and then all of a sudden it was like her thing.
Wait, yeah, that works.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and it actually did work, because then they had to be trying to demonstrate to me. And in the process, I think they're learning from why they did it. So they're not mad at me anymore. They realize what they did was wrong, and that, they didn't want to do that again.
But I think you're right about the generational piece, where you didn't always say, like, I know better than you and I know what's best, but at the same time, you somehow demonstrated that you gave good advice and knew what you were talking about, because then we always wanted to come to you for advice, even once we were adults and out of the house. And it doesn't mean that we didn't go to our friends for their opinions as well, but we also, at least for me, I always came to you for your opinion, probably first.
And also, I think as you guys were growing up, I also tried not to have like bright lines and you have a curfew of X because you're X years old. It's like, okay, where are you going? What time do you think you'll be home? And we came to an agreement. Okay, so that's when I can expect you. If something happens and you're going to be later, then you let me know. And so it was like just talking about things, and I think that helps.
I feel like actually this makes me think of a question that is a good question for like generational standpoint. Like, how was it different for like me in high school compared to Lakin? Like, not like what we did, but like how was like the generation different, and like how did that I don't know.
Well,
did it play an impact?
Yeah, did it play an impact in like how we were like raised at that time?
Well, the biggest impact was smartphone, no smartphone.
Yep, which we have talked about in an episode before.
Yeah, because that was huge. Lakin would get in trouble because she texted too much, because back then you had to pay
per text message.
Per text message.
I got in trouble because I used too much data.
Right. So now the next kids have it made, because those things are all gone.
Unlimited.
But I think that, was a huge impact on Allie, where, she had that, getting wrapped up in some things because of social media that you didn't have.
Yeah, so I got Facebook like sophomore, junior year of high school, so it was barely a thing when I was in high school, whereas social media was a huge thing. And we've done a whole episode on social media in general, but as it pertains to parenting, I mean, parenting with social media, like, I can't even imagine.
Well, and then there's also the advantage of, Life 360 that I did not have with you. So, you could have lied to me about where you were, and I would not have known. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Like, if he had
But I didn't really lie. I kind of knew when he was staying at certain people's house.
That's true. Parker probably didn't lie about where he was, just what he was doing.
I could also still very much sometimes lie, because I could say I was at someone's house and it could have been someone else who didn't know where they lived.
Wow.
Right. But if I wanted to know, I could have figured that out.
How?
Ask you what the person's address was.
Yeah, and then I would have
said the wrong one.
Said where her phone setter said she was.
Yeah, I would have totally said that.
Not where you.
Not that I did that on the regular, but
but she apparently did.
But I did, because and less more so for you, but more so for Dad. I wasn't getting into trouble or anything. It was just if I was hanging out with my friends and staying at someone a girl's house, that's one thing. But if it was a guy's house,
I knew where none of your girlfriends lived, though.
Yeah.
Because,
so maybe it wasn't you and it was just her dad, which goes back, as we talked about in episode 1, her dad is a boomer. So
true.
that is a totally different generation than you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But that definitely, the technology that changed from when I was in high school to when you were in high school.
Mm-hmm.
For sure, that to me was probably, the biggest difference. And you guys were different kids too.
Yeah, well,
what you like to do and
who you hung out with.
and who you hung out with, and you hung out with a bunch
The
of
theater kids
theater kids,
which I thought I would be in. And then I was like, I'm gonna play sport. I think another thing that's going back to like being friends is like, I think it's like, it does make it easier that like we live so close. And like when I was going to college, like she was like 5-10 minutes away. I mean, we see each other like almost every day. Like,
I mean, you can say that.
But-
That's not the case for me. I went to college in a totally different state, and then I moved to a totally different state. So when I moved back here, I acknowledged that I hadn't lived in the same place as Mom since I was 18. And while, yes, I can see how for some parent-kid relationships, the distance probably does make it harder, for sure.
Right.
That, I feel like, didn't impact us.
But that would have been a generational thing as well too. At least by the time you did go to college, we did have at least text messages, and we started having FaceTime. And so you would FaceTime me as a way to connect. And I used to think that the generation before who didn't have that,
Yes,
that would have been much harder. I know that my husband said, on Sunday evenings is when he called, his parents once a week and told them what's happening. And it's just like, well, that's just, a period of time. It's just like, what about on, Saturday morning and you just had a crazy night the night before when
you want to talk.
And so it's just like, so I feel like you get more connected into your lives when you first become adults, because social media in some ways is very helpful.
Right. And just the technology of being able to more easily communicate with you when I didn't live in the same places.
Whereas Allie and I would have made, it was easy because,
you saw each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I got to know Allie's friends, and, it was like...
Yeah, that is true.
Yeah, I knew a lot more about that part of her life. And
mine.
less about yours,
All
just
of
what
my
you told
friends
me.
love Bonnie.
I will also say, and whether this relates directly to being friends with your kids or not, I do think, Mom, you are just good at friends in general. You are just good at friendship. Nobody impresses me more in terms of the quantity and length of your friendships. I mean, she has friends from middle school that she still goes on vacations with, and that's a whole different tier of friendship when you're planning trips with somebody. And you just have a lot of really great friends. So I think also you're just good at friendship. And I don't know if that has translated to being friends with us as your kids. But any general friendship tips you want to share with us?
Well, I think that there's, because the friends that I've had since middle school and high school, it's just like, for middle school, we didn't go to the same high school. And so, I mean, we could have easily lost touch.
That's true.
How many people stay in touch with somebody from middle school that they didn't go to high school or college with? Right. So, but we always stayed connected, and we get together and it's like no time has passed. Mm-hmm. And so, to me, you just have, with certain people, you just have these connections with.
But I still think you do such a good job of making the effort to call them and stay connected to them, that I feel like is really hard. It's hard.
Yeah, because in the beginning we did this with no cell phone, period, let alone smartphone. We had nothing. So we had to still physically use a phone connected to a wall to call each other. So, so then it did take more effort, and so that we went through those challenging years and stayed connected with each other.
I just always feel like I don't talk to anybody from middle school.
I do.
Yeah, you have one.
I feel like and you too probably, I feel like I'm very, I don't know, I don't really boast, but I'm pretty good about maintaining friendships that I care about. And I think something with my generation, if you're not in a good relationship, you're not gonna stay in it. I don't know how to explain it. If you know someone's not good for you, you're not gonna continue that.
That was a challenge. I've had periods of times where it's a friendship wasn't good for me.
That's true.
And I didn't know how to let go because of how I tend to hold on to
Yeah,
friends.
I'm the same
And
way.
so it took effort to say, you know what, that
That's
these
not a good,
these friendships are no longer, didn't mean they weren't right in the time period. Someone told me once that, people come into your life for a reason, a season, or a lifetime.
That's so weird that you say that, because Cindy Wade, whom I think I've talked about before, is my roommate, and she tells me that all the time.
Yep, I really believe that. And so sometimes it was just
a season or a lifetime.
Yep. And so there's, people in my life that realize.
And there's people that I don't have in my life anymore, that friendships and everything like that. I'm glad that I had that season with them.
Absolutely.
Because it was such a happy time, but that doesn't mean that it's again meant to be forever. But yeah, I feel I don't know. I feel something for me in high school that I remember is I didn't have a core group of friends. I had a lot of friends and different groups. I had my sport friends, I had my club friends, I had my student council friends, I had my classroom friends. I had just all of these different friends. So it wasn't until I got to college, and even halfway through college, when I really met those women that I was going to be friends with for a lifetime.
Yeah.
I also think though that the dynamics of groups of friends actually makes things harder than easier.
Yeah.
One-on-one friendships are easier this is my opinion. Than the dynamic of groups of friends.
Yeah.
And I think as you grow older, it becomes more like that. You have
Yes.
more one-on-one friendships. We were talking about this at one point, how I feel in college you do have that a group. You have more of a friend group, and in high school.
Yep.
And then when you graduate college, this is kind of the time where you're okay, is this a party friend? Is this a college friend? Is this a real friend? Is this a lifetime friend? And so you kind of figure all that out, and it's really scary. But then you realize oh wow, these are my real friends. So.
And as you guys go through life events, your relationships become more important, and when you're in the same place. So it's so those friends that got married first, okay, so the married friends kind of hung out, and the single friends kind of separated off for a while, and then vice versa, and then the ones that got divorced. And then in my situation, it was I moved to Chicago or Naperville and then get divorced, and it was you people aren't going to invite the odd woman to dinner, right? It's weird. And so I ended up friends with people from work that were 10 years younger than me, because we were more aligned from a life perspective. And so I have a number of friends that are significantly younger than I am.
Yeah. I always actually, when I was in high school, I always had younger friends because of my sport that I played. And so one of my best friends from high school is how much younger is she than me? I don't even know. 2 or 3 years. But she's one of those friends that I'll FaceTime her once a month, and we'll just talk for 3 hours. Yeah. So I call it a low maintenance best friend, because it's I don't need that. You don't need to be hey, are you doing okay? Hey, what's up? But then you have those calls where you can just talk for. There were some friendships that I had that I felt I do think that it's important if you're gonna be in a friendship to always check up on that friend and stuff. But there's a balance. If I'm busy and I can't make time every single week, that's just how it's gonna be for a little bit. Or if I don't have time to text you every single week, and I've lost friends because I've not been able to keep up because they don't think I care, and it's just people are going through things and going through different life changes and all that, and it's better to have someone that can ride that out with you and understand that you might be busy, rather than constantly needing to be okay, well, we need to hang out once a month just so we know that we're still friends.
No, I definitely think you need to have a mix. And when I haven't heard from somebody in a while, I've never assumed that they don't care. It's just that they're busy.
They got busy.
They say, and then you reach out or something and say, hey, what's going on? And
that's totally normal. I feel even if you're hanging out with someone in groups, and you still text them and whatever, but then it's in addition to that, it's okay, but we need to make sure that we're hanging out once a month, because it feels almost we're just doing that to make sure that we're still friends, and it's okay, but
when you're friends, you don't have to do that. I don't think.
Yeah,
I think it just comes naturally.
Yeah,
I think you're right. Every relationship is different, though, and
100%.
And it has to be what works for you and that other person. And are you a talk every day, and if it's a talk every day kind of relationship and then I don't hear from them, it's not that I think they don't care, but I'm concerned now. I'm like, are you okay?
Right.
Like, I haven't heard from you,
Mm-hmm.
or vice versa.
And I do have those friends that are like, you know, like if something like happens or like whatever, like they'll like text me separately and be like, hey, look, are you doing okay? And that's like super appreciative, and I do the same thing. I feel like more so as I've just had other relationships that like it just felt forced, and like I don't have that feeling anymore. Yeah, I have like real friends, I feel like, that like reach out because they care, and like vice versa.
I mean, navigating friendships is not easy, whether it's with your kids or your parents or your other friends. I also feel like making friends is another thing that is always asked about and people always kind of talk about. You know, Mom, you kind of brought up making friends at work when you moved here originally. But for some people, either they don't want to be friends with their coworkers, or making friends with, or they don't go to an office, right?
Yeah.
Making friends that you actually align with once you are not in school is really hard.
Yeah. Yeah. If you don't have something that you know, place you go or thing you do. I have had friends that I've developed from, you know, service relationships, you know. One, you know, Maria.
Oh, like your hairdresser.
Yeah. So it's just like you know, because you see them all the time, you talk to them all the time. My hairdresser, you know, today will come over and, you know, hang out.
Yeah.
So I tend to make friends from those, you know, relationships too. And so,
you also keep making friends with your neighbors. That's another one.
Yes.
I feel like that's a recent one.
Yes. Because we moved to Chicago and, you know, we didn't have anybody in Chicago. And we met neighbors of all ages. I like having friends of different age groups because I think you can learn something from all of them. You know, people that are younger.
That's a very good point and relevant to this podcast.
Having friends in different generations.
Yes, because it is. You can learn so much.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes you learn things you don't want to do. It's just like, nope, don't want to do that. It's rejuvenating, you know, to hear the stories of someone who's older and to, you know, the young people. You know, we have a lot of young people friends because I think you learn more than having people that are friends, they're just like you.
Yeah, that's definitely true. Which is, again, more common when you're younger and you're in college and whatever. You end up more with friends who are just like you. And then when you get older, it's easier to kind of branch out and have friends that are older, younger, different, you know, whatever it is. Somehow, you were talking about friendships that were going through similar life stages. Somehow Sam and I have managed to collect couple friends who don't plan to have kids. And I feel like it's interesting, and it also makes me nervous for what those friendships are going to be like once we have our own kids, and making sure the one in particular, I've had like a pre-conversation with her about it. Like, we need to make sure what's the plan, like, you know, talking, it just being some of the things that we've talked about is being very clear when we make plans. Are these with kids, or is this with baby or without baby plans?
Right.
And being clear about that.
Yeah.
And then, you know, just making sure that we're still having conversations and talking about things that aren't always related to baby. I just think that that's interesting too.
And I have some good friends that don't have kids. Yeah. And it's not just because they're younger than me, but they're past now.
It's people that have chosen not to have kids. Yeah, and that's what I mean. Like, they're our age. They could obviously change their mind tomorrow and still physically have kids, but they have chosen child-free life. So I'm just, I'm interested to see what happens kind of with those friendships, but then also, you know, it's nice to have friends that are going through the same life stages as you.
Oh, for sure. You'll find some, and you know, for a period of time, you know, that will be a huge bond. I mean, you know, Kara and I's, you know, biggest bond was that not only we were, you know, working together, but then we had our kids together.
Right.
And we also lived in the same neighborhood. So we were together all the time, but, you know, our kids were, you know, and we spent on
the same age.
Yes. And so, you know, that was a huge impact on our friendship.
I know, but you met via work, and so I'm over here like as somebody who works for themselves.
Yeah.
My husband works for himself. Like, where do we meet somebody who is the same kid, the same age as ours?
Yeah.
I mean, I would say Facebook groups. Like, we've talked about this before. Like, there's so many Facebook groups that, like, I feel like, I mean, I'm, like, in a Facebook group that's like, hey, like, I want to go to the Jonas Brothers concert. Anyone want to come with me? And all these girls are like, oh, yeah, I'll go with you. And then, like, boom, friends.
Yeah, you can
like,
find,
it's so easy.
I saw this group, women walking with cats. No, they were literally walking with the cats. They're in Chicago, and they go and they're over by the lake, and they have their cats, and they come and build this whole little thing so the cats can play, and it's just like crazy.
Yeah,
now, not that my cats are doing that, but I'm just saying there's one for everybody.
Yeah, there's something.
Could you just go without the cats, but be like, clearly I want to be friends with y'all because I'm a cat person, even if my cat's not a walking cat.
Yeah.
That's true. I guess I can.
There's a whole female. There's something I saw probably on the Today Show, but a woman started it in her area, and I was, with babies and walking, and and getting women together and just let's go for a walk and we can meet each other and push our little babies around, and so and now it's like it's picked up and people have picked it up in other cities and said, forget what it's called, but obviously I think she's right that on social media you can find people. Yeah. It always surprises me, like on the our area Facebook groups. There's a lot of things people put out there about can someone do this, or I want to do this, or I want to meet friends, and so I think there's ways definitely to do it.
Yeah.
So and I think it'd be helpful. I mean, it's nice bouncing ideas off of other young moms going through the same things that you are.
And there's something about being in person. I feel like I've mentioned before on the podcast that one of my best friends, had a baby 8 weeks before me. Give or take, who knows at this point actually how far apart they'll be in age, but because she's had her baby and I haven't had mine, but we were 8 weeks apart in our due dates. And so we text a lot about baby stuff, pregnancy stuff and baby stuff. But there is something about seeing people in person and being able to be in person with people.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
When you have babies the same age.
Yeah. And it's fun. Babies get to also play, and it's nice to have the play dates, and the babies keep themselves occupied while you can sit and chat.
Any other thoughts on friendships or
The only other thing I was going to say, going back to like friends that like kind of are at different
life stages?
Yeah. So like one of my best friends from like college is going to nursing school at Rush right now in Chicago, and she lives with like two of her nursing school friends, and then there's like another nursing school friend that lives like in the city, and like I've gotten to know them like over the course of like the past couple months, and actually have gotten like so close to them, like closer than some of like previous friendships that I've had in like a very short amount of time. And they all relate because they're all going through the same thing, like going through nursing school and stuff, and so they always talk about that a lot. But like they never failed to like make me feel like included, or like just meeting people at different points in your life. Like I didn't think that I would meet some of the girls that I feel like I'm going to be friends with my entire life, like right now. Despite them going through something like very different, like they've just been the best friends I've had like in such a long time.
So you can meet friends from friends.
Yeah, that's
so you
friends through friends.
Yeah. Leslie met him because they're going through the same thing.
And it's good for Leslie because now she has her like me and all of her like
new friends.
friends.
But I feel bad for those that work from home all the time and don't have those same abilities to connect, or work on their own. I mean, those are all great things, but it's a little harder.
Yeah, it is. I mean, most of my friendships in my early 20s, right out of college, were my coworkers.
Right.
When I first moved to New York, I mean, my friends were my coworkers. And so that now that I don't have that now, and it doesn't help that my husband also doesn't have it, so it's not like I can meet the spouses of his coworkers.
Right.
It's like
I would say definitely Facebook. 150%. Like there's like this like Facebook group like for girls in Chicago, and it's like thousands and thousands of girls, and I mean I see things every single day that's like, it's like 3 pictures of them. It's like, hey, I'm blah blah blah, I'm this old, like I live in this neighborhood, here's all about me, like anyone wanna get brunch, get drinks, go and walk, like I mean
wow.
Yeah.
It's called One Drink and Friends.
One Drink and Friends. I like it.
Yeah.
Are there moms in this Facebook?
Yeah, I mean it's like the age range is really, like, I mean, you'll see that people, and they're like, oh, I'm like 36, and like I live by myself, and I work from home, blah blah blah, like I want to meet girls my age, like, oh yeah.
I guess that's my homework from this episode
is
to start making mom friends, because I do feel like since we've moved here, as of the recording of this, it's been almost 6 months, and I pretty much, I mean, not that I've been trying to make new friends, but I'm not, and I haven't. I've hung out with family and then like my one good friend that was here.
Yeah.
Well, it's hard when you're pregnant. You don't have your number of hours in which you really have the desire to
That's true.
invest is probably, you're going to feel completely different once you feel back to yourself and you have yourself back. It'll be really different. Not that you're not going to be busy with the baby, and people make it sound like it's, oh my God, you're going to have so much to do.
Yeah.
It's not true. You will find a
Right.
way to have time, and you will have the desire to do things and meet people, and it will happen that way.
That's fair, because I literally probably couldn't be more uncomfortable than I am right in this moment, sitting in this uncomfortable chair. Basically 36 weeks pregnant, so
Anyways.
I definitely don't feel like myself. I feel like this was helpful. I feel like whether it's friendships with your kids or friendships for yourself, this was a fun
Friendship with Bonnie.
friendship with Bonnie needs to be a series. No, but for real. I mean, obviously we love Mom, and having her as a guest was always the plan. And this just was the topic that kind of spurred. But any other topic suggestions with Mom in the future?
We'll just put with Bonnie.
Blank with Bonnie.
Yeah. Friendship with Bonnie is the first one.
Wine with Bonnie.
Wine, well,
Well,
it's always wine with
wine with
Bonnie.
Cheers.
Cheers.